goes into the So yeah, that's right. A lot. Yeah. It's beautiful. We went to Orcas Island, like a ferry drive on. Went to the very top, and you can see all the communities. You can see. What's the big Mount Baker, which is near is in Washington, but then the big one that's in Oregon. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing. Oh, hi. So you gotta get back today quickly, or no? No, I got some. Yeah, we didn't. They're starting a test. No, don't worry about it. Wait. No.
Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
And also welcome to those of us joining us on Facebook Live and those who are sleeping in will be catching it on YouTube later. Immediately following our service, downstairs in the fellowship hall, there'll be a gathering, will be food and fellowship, and everybody is invited. As a reminder, at the aisle there are pew pads, so those of you at the aisle seats, if you would sign the pew pad and then pass it along down to your neighbor in the aisle, in your pew, it'll be appreciated as well. The flowers in front of me today are from Barbara Harris's memorial service yesterday. I'm also sad to report that Betty Dudley passed away this past Thursday. And with more sad news, Susan Noyes has also passed away. Her funeral service will be next Wednesday at noon at the Wilkinson Bean Funeral Home. On a much lighter note, I'd remind you that last week Stacy shared with us a wonderful solo called When I'm Back on My Feet Again, a tribute to Michael. Stacy and Carolyn have redone that song and put it on YouTube, and if you haven't seen it, I'd encourage you to take a look. They've renamed it When I'm on My Bike Again. Please be sure to check that out. Congratulations to Michael for continued improvement, which I hope will encourage Stacy and Carolyn to share with us another song in a few weeks called Back in the Saddle Again. Also want to let you know that Happy Cow has $5 Sundays today, so if anybody's interested after church. And with that, I'm going to ask AJ, who has an announcement for us.
Hello, everyone. We are very excited for the return of the Chancellor Choir. We are going to begin rehearsals again on Thursday night from 6 to 7 right here or in the church. One of the Sundays we're downstairs, I can't remember, but you'll find us. It's the people that are yelling and screaming. So we have the Old Home Day Sunday, where we do a lot of old-time gospel tunes, and then our regular season. And if you want to just, take the choir for a test drive, the Chancellor Choir Old Home Day Sunday is a great time to do it. If you've ever really been like, I think I see myself up there, then this is a great time to join in. It's a happy family. There's no reason not to, okay? I mean, come on, let's get into the choir, folks. All right, thank you.
Thank you, AJ. And now I'm going to ring 3 chimes. Much like the ringing of the bell earlier, this first chime not only calls us to gather together, but to be truly present to one another. The second chime is to remind us to open our minds, that we might not just hear one another, but that we might truly listen to one another. And this third and last chime reminds us to open our hearts so that we might not just feel compassion, but that we be moved to compassionate action. And now let the music serve to remove the distractions of the outside world so that we might better reflect on those things that have brought us here together this morning. Thank you, Alexander. And now let us be in the spirit of prayer. Lord, we thank you for our many blessings, and we ask that your special blessing be with all those who are ill or in distress. We know that we do not always know the pain or the distress that others carry. Help us to be sensitive to the needs of those around us. We know that we cannot always solve another's problems or take away their pain, but help us to find ways to be present to them at their time of need. May the knowledge of your presence bring comfort to all who are dealing with impossible situations. Let our knowledge of another's distress move us to compassion and action so as to make us an instrument of thy peace. And now let us join together in reciting the prayer taught to us by Jesus. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. And now, please stand if you are able for our hymn number 1, Immortal, Invisible, God Only Wise.
Today's reading is Mark chapter 7, verses 1 through 9. Some Pharisees and several teachers of the law of Moses from Jerusalem came and gathered around Jesus. They noticed that some of his followers didn't eat without washing their hands first. The Pharisees and many others always were taught by their ancestors to wash their hands before eating. None of them will eat anything they buy in the market until it is washed. They also follow a lot of other teachings, such as washing cups, pitchers, and bowls. The Pharisees and teachers asked Jesus, "Why don't your disciples obey what our ancestors taught us to do? Why do they eat without washing their hands?" Jesus replied, "You are nothing but show-offs. The prophet Isaiah was right when he wrote that God had said, 'When all of you praise me with your words, but you never really think about me, it's useless for you to worship me when you teach rules made up by humans. You disobey God's commands in order to obey what humans have taught. Here ends the reading.
Thank you, Zach.
This river between us grows wider each day. He talks, but he mostly has little to say. I beg him to separate the truth from the tale, but the river invites him. This river between us grows harder to bear. He's standing beside me, but not really there. His flights turn to fancy as soon as he'll start, but his fancy excites him. So Edward takes heart. He promised he'd restrain himself. He promised he'd be good. He promised he'd contain himself, as if he ever could. My father speaks, and shooting stars can fill the skies above you. So why don't I believe my father when he says I love you?
This river between us.
There's a river between us.
There's an ocean between us. This river between us is selfish and cold. It flows where it wants to, it can't be controlled. My son doesn't want me to be what I am. He don't give a damn.
He only sees what he invents.
He only sees the black and white.
All make-believe and all pretense.
And always wants to start a fight.
He doesn't change.
He doesn't stay, and so the river winds its way. This river between us can never be crossed, and while we stay silent, we're violently tossed.
I'll leave him to ponder,
I'll leave him alone.
'cause he's made of stone.
He's made of stone.
He's made of stone.
He's made of stone. This river between us can rage like the sea. Holding on for dear life is my child and me. He'll come to his senses.
He's swimming and yet
He'll drop his defenses.
he's caught in a net.
And though I can't change him, someday he'll regret.
This river between
This river between us.
This river between
This
us.
river between
This
us.
river
between
us.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Matt, AJ, and Alexander. And now it's children's time. We don't have a lot of children, but we have Zach. Anybody else want to come down? You're young at heart. Well, Zach, come on down this way. Maybe turning it on helps. Zach also, oh, here comes some more. We're all going to learn about Zenga together. Now, what does Zenga have to do with church? Hi. What's your name? Oh, Queen. Queen Elizabeth. And what's your name? Andrew. Avery. Well, welcome. Well, we're going to talk about churches. Behind us here, we got a Jenga tower that Zachary helped me build. Huh? No, you're not hiding it. I think everybody else can see it. Some churches are built like a Zenga tower. Now, Zachary, I'm going to ask you to, now that you built it, I'm going to ask you to help me take it down. Okay, come on over here. Now, something I learned from my grandchildren. I didn't realize that when you take a piece out of a Zenga tower, you're supposed to put it on top. We just took it out until it fell. So you're going to have to do it the right way. Now, churches that are built like towers, they're kind of fragile because they're built on a lot of little pieces. Because they don't always hold up to asking questions. So every time there's a concern or a question, I want you to pull a piece out and probably even start from the bottom. Now, some questions that get to be troublesome, like, was there really a talking snake in the Garden of Eden? So you can take a piece out, because that would bother a lot of people. How do you answer that one? Okay. Did Noah really live to be 950 years old? What do you think, Zach? No? Okay, take a piece out. Take a piece out. Zach, why weren't there any dinosaurs in the ark? It'll happen. Did dogs go to heaven? Okay, take out a piece. Anybody else have any trying questions that they would want to know? Why did a lot of people still and maybe used to not eat meat on Fridays? Take another piece out. Oh. Let's see. Well, there must be more questions. But what happens, keep taking pieces out and let's see what happens. Oh, you're doing well. Keep going there. Whoa. Now let's see what happens. Let's see how good you are now. Okay, you can nip away at a belief system quite a bit. But at some point, yeah, you're doing well. Okay, well, let's go for it. Go big, look at that. You go to ball, you get to choose. Your tower, your choice. Belief systems can be very solid. I mean, they hold up to a lot. But somehow, you can't keep rearranging them. Go for another. Yeah. Oh, I think you can keep going. Oh, no, if it falls down, it's okay. Oh, go for it. Take a guess. You're doing very well. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Now, when we clear off the rubble, over here we built something else, which is really a foundation. Now, I'm going to ask Peter Stewart, if I say anything wrong, to jump on me for this. See, I talked to him earlier. You know, other churches are built on a strong foundation where it holds up to all kinds of questions, all kinds of things, and it's actually stronger because of its variation and diversity. If you take cement, correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, and you add aggregate to it, and you add sand to it, you create cement, which is much stronger than, you create concrete, which is much stronger than cement. If you take that same concrete and put reinforcing rods into it, if you take different materials, it actually gets stronger. If you take a laminated beam, which takes a bunch of different woods and glue them together, it's stronger because of all that variation. And that's how I see a lot of churches. That's how I see this church. It's being much stronger because of the variation, the variety, not having to adhere to a certain belief system, but having a strong foundation that each of us individually can build on. So I want to thank you all for joining me down here this morning, especially Zach for helping build and tear down. So let me put the microphone back. Once again, let us be in the spirit of prayer. Listen to these familiar words from St. Francis of Assisi. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. Lord, grant that I might not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And Lord, thank you for this opportunity to come together so that our shared joys may be doubled, while our burdens are lessened by the many helping hands of those around us. Thank you, Lord, for the gift to us, which is this church community. In music.
A summer's day, a mother sings a song of purple summer, though the heart of everything, and heaven waits, so close it seems, to show her child the wonders of a world beyond her dreams. The earth will wave with corn. The day is so wide, so warm, and mares will neigh with stallions as they made, foals they mourn, and all shall know the wonder of purple summer. And so I wait, the swallow brings a song of what's to follow, the glory of the spring. The fences sway, the porches swing, the clouds begin to thunder, crickets wander murmuring. The earth will wave with corn. The day is so wide, so warm, and mares will neigh with stallions as they made, foals they mourn, and all shall know the wonder. I will sing the song of purple summer. All shall know the wonder. I will sing the song of purple summer.
Thank you, Matt, AJ, and Alexander again for wonderful music. I remember like it was yesterday, even though it was 45 years ago. It's Christmas Day, and I was volunteering at a nearby Veterans Administration hospital for their chapel service. Now, when you think of psych hospitals back then, we're talking in the dark ages, about 20 different buildings spread over 10 acres, connected by these spooky underground tunnels. Think of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and you won't be too far off. And if you think of Nurse Ratched, you won't be too far off from how most of the staff appeared to me. It was then at that Christmas Day chapel service that, for some strange reason, I was introduced to the Apostles' Creed for the first time. I don't know why in all my Methodist upbringing that had never crossed path. And, and of course, this is back in the age where you resented any kind of people telling you what to do, especially if you're an adolescent. I was a teenager at the time. I get really nervous with anything that starts with, I believe. Well, when you get to the part in the Apostles' Creed, that it says, Jesus, after his crucifixion, descended into hell. I said, look, I missed that Sunday school class. I never got that memo. I don't know how many of you did. Now, if you think the Apostles' Creed isn't part of things, it's actually in the back of your hymnal, number 881. And the Apostles' Creed is essentially what the tower-based Jenga model was. There was a time when people thought everybody had to believe the same way, say the same thing, and do the same thing in order for their faith to be true and real. And of course, that's not the case. Later, I worked for an American Baptist church as a youth minister. And, they're a very liberal American Baptist church there in this particular one, very liberal, very few rules. But there was one that I came to discover, to my surprise and discouragement. Of course, they are called Baptists for a reason. You have to be baptized. You have to prove that you were baptized. Now, I had heard stories that I was baptized as an infant in the Methodist church, but the church that had closed, the records transferred to another church which burned, so I could not prove that I'd been baptized. In a Baptist church, this is a big deal, so it means you get baptized again. And in Baptist churches of that era, it was a big tank. It was full immersion, and that was one of their few rules. Churches have all kinds of rules, and I'm just going to digress a little bit, because some of them are actually kind of humorous, and I'll go back to the Christmas one. But we all know Easter is a big Christian celebration. In my mind, I thought, Easter was always on a different day every year. When is it? So I thought there were two monks in the basement of the Vatican that had some kind of crazy calendar, and they determined when it was. Well, no, that's not how Easter happens. Easter happens on the first Sunday after the first full moon in spring, and I was really disappointed when I found that out. And then I found out, well, we all know that Lent is how many days? 40 days. There are 40 days of Lent starting in Ash Wednesday. One day I'm doing a calendar, and I'm counting from Ash Wednesday to Easter, and I keep thinking my math is wrong. Every time I do it, it's like 44 days. What is the matter with this? Well, guess what doesn't count in Lent? Sundays. Sundays don't count, so there are 40 days if you don't count Sundays. So we create all kinds of models for some reasons, for some with good reasons, some with bad reasons. It brings me back to the Christmas part. Okay, here we are. Why don't most Protestant churches, when Christmas does not fall on a Sunday, have church on Christmas? Pretty important holiday. And that's why I ended up at the chapel at the VA, because I couldn't find any other place that was doing it. And it ended up starting a volunteer experience where I take veterans to the service every Sunday thereafter. But it was kind of quirky. Now, I bet Michael has the answer, and we'll have to ask Michael at a later time what the real answer is. My speculation for why most most Protestant churches don't have service actually goes back probably to our Jewish roots. The Jewish Sabbath starts at sundown the night before. So I'm guessing, and it's a wild guess, it's pure speculation on my part, that this became the justification. If you had a Christmas Eve service, it really was Christmas, based on the Jewish tradition. True, not true? We'll let Michael decide. No. Rules, traditions, and rituals are all helpful if they serve a purpose and unto themselves. The reading this morning from Mark speaks to Jesus fighting these kind of religious rules all the time. You know, there were certainly the rules that kept with the story of the Good Samaritan. You know, it was the Sabbath, and the Sabbath you're not supposed to do anything, including even help people, which is really sad. In Mark, the story about the washing wasn't about hygiene. The disciples weren't against good hygiene. It was ritualistic washing that really is tied to the whole kosher tradition. Now, if a tradition encourages you, if a discipline enhances your faith, it's a good thing. But if it's being done instead of your faith, or in spite of your faith, or it contradicts values, then it's not a good thing. Sometimes rules are used as a way to prove or earn our faith. Some faiths are built like a Jenga tower, where if everybody in that faith community doesn't believe the same thing, it starts to erode and fall apart. Where other faiths, and I like to think this church is a prime example, is based on a solid foundation, where it can tolerate variation. It encourages questions. It encourages people to build what they need to build on that foundation. It doesn't say that it has to look a certain way. It just says that it needs to be strong and true. I'm glad to have found a church with a very solid foundation. And with that, I would ask you to please stand, if you are able, for hymn number 522. I love to tell the story. And now, as we prepare to leave this sacred space, may we take with us the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment. May the love of God uphold us as we go now in peace.
We probably need to move this for Carolyn. Yeah. Thanks.